okay? Because that was already there. We didn't have to stick it in to help us solve anything. So that's why it's only negative 4 plus 3. Cool? Okay, I'm going to make you say it again while we write it down right here. You ready?
Yeah.
X equals negative b plus or minus square root quantity b squared minus 4ac all divided by 2 times a. And where would we put parentheses in there?
Around the 4ac.
Around the 4ac. Okay? Now today, we're going to talk about the discriminant, which is part of the quadratic formula. And the discriminant tells us something. The discriminant is the expression under the radical, the square root sign, in the quadratic formula. So this part right here is the discriminant. Just that, not the square root, just the b squared minus 4ac. What it tells us is, it tells us the number of solutions. And I'm going to tell you what that means in a second. This says if I stick numbers in for a, b, and c here, and I find out that the value of that number is greater than 0, that means that there are 2 solutions. I'm going to tell you what that means here in a second. Now look at here, it says graph. You say, yeah, but we didn't graph yet. You're right, we didn't. But the discriminant tells us something about the graph. Does anybody remember what shape of a graph these quadratic equations are going to have? Yeah, it's a what? It's a parabola. It's a U-shaped graph, okay? So, I know. I want you to draw yourself an x and y axis because we'll be getting to this soon. Now, if this happens, if I stick in a, b, and c and I get a number bigger than 0, that tells me there's 2 solutions. Now what that means is the parabola hits the x-axis in 2 spots. And we'll be doing this in a few weeks. So the 2 means that the parabola hits the x-axis twice. Those are the solutions. That's what that means. Solutions. Wherever it hits the x-axis. You were getting like decimals. You were getting like negative 3.5 and positive 2.2. That's where it hits the x-axis. That's what you were doing yesterday. Figuring out that with the quadratic formula. Okay? All right. If it's equal to 0, that means you're going to have 1 solution. If I draw my x and y axis, what do you think that's going to look like on here, that parabola? It's going to, yeah, it's going to hit the x-axis what? In the middle, or only once, only 1 spot. It could be anywhere on the x-axis. It could be right here. Okay? Only hits x-axis once. There's 1 solution. 1 solution. Now, if you stick in a, b, and c, and you get a number for that value less than 0, what do you think that means? It means no solution. I wonder what that graph looks like. No, there is a parabola. It doesn't touch the x-axis. It could be floating up here somewhere, just never touches the x-axis. And you'll learn all about that in Algebra 2. Does not hit the x-axis at all. Doesn't matter about the y. Just doesn't hit the x-axis. So, what we're doing today, and I want you to keep this clear. Yesterday you were finding x, right? Today we're just going to find out how many times it hits the x-axis. How many solutions there are. We're not finding x. So it's two difference. They're using the discriminant. So there's going to be some words you're going to see. Like for example here, it says the discriminant tells you the number of solutions. Words associated with the discriminant. It could say use the discriminant to find the number of solutions, which we were just talking about. It could say use the discriminant to find the number of x-intercepts. Same thing. That's called an x-intercept, isn't it? That's an x-intercept. That's an x-intercept. Same thing. Or someday you might be told to say use the discriminant to find the zeros. That means find when y equals 0. Zeros is just another word that they use for solution, x-intercept, whatever. Tell me about this. This point here, what's the y-coordinate? What's the y-coordinate of that point? What's the y-coordinate of that point? That's what that means, find the zeros. Okay, so you might see all of those. You might see any of those words. So let's practice using the discriminant to find out how many solutions there are going to be. Not what the solutions are, just how many. Okay, so turn it over. All right, right up here, the discriminant. X equals negative b plus or minus square root quantity b squared minus 4ac. That's the discriminant. It's what's under the square root quantity. Okay? So that's what we're going to use to find out how many solutions. So again, I have to have a, b, and c. What's a? What's b? And c. So I'm going to plug it in just to this. So b squared minus 4 times 3 times 7. That's all I'm using of the quadratic formula. That'd be 64 minus 84. What's that going to equal? Negative 20. This is the value of the discriminant. So, if that's the case, how many solutions does this equation have? If you don't know, you go back and look here. If it's less than 0, that means there's no solution. It never hits the x-axis. So that's all you do. No solution. You're not finding the solutions. You're just finding how many there are. Okay? All right, let's do the next one. A equals 1, B equals 2, C equals negative 3. Plug it into the discriminant. 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 3. What's 4 times 1 times negative 3? Negative 12. So I have 4 plus 12, because a negative and a negative is a positive. So I have 16. How many solutions? 2. Right, this is not the solution. It just tells me there are 2 solutions. Okay? Oh, I got a problem. It's not set equal to 0. It has to be set equal to 0 before you can identify A, B, and C. So add 4x, add 4x. Now, the x thing goes in the middle, because you have to be able to identify A, B, and C. You may not need to put it in the middle, but you have to be able to identify A, B, and C, so it's best to line it up. A equals 4, B equals 4, C equals 1. You finish that one, see what you get. You finish that. Use a discriminant to determine how many solutions. How many times does this graph hit the x-axis? 1 time. The discriminant has a value of 0 That tells me there's only one solution. Okay? All right, a few more. Look what it's asking now. Use the discriminant to find the number of x-intercepts. Is that anything different? No, it's the same as finding the number of solutions. Okay? So, let's just do this one. A equals 1, B equals 7, C equals 2. Oh, it's frozen. Sorry, you guys. Okay. All right, plug it in. 7 squared minus 4 times 1 times, this is negative 2. Negative 2. C is negative 2. This becomes negative 8. So I have 49 minus a negative 8, which will become a plus. And that's 57. So how many solutions? 2 solutions. Not bad, huh? Or let's say 2 x-intercepts, because that's what they're asking me, actually. This one really isn't any difference. But I do want to ask you, what's A here? You all see that, correct? Okay, let's do this one. A equals 1, B equals 10, C equals 25. 10. I almost said 2. 2n. 10 squared minus 4 times 1 times 25. 100 minus 100 equals 0. So how many solutions? Or x-intercepts? 1 x-intercept. So what part of the quadratic formula is the discriminant? B squared minus 4ac. Okay? So that's all you're going to do is you're going to